Hi, One Best Bear Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. Right now, we're going to take a look at the top 25 in college basketball from an ATS perspective. Today's March 1st. In the top 5, the only team with an upcoming game that I have really circled is number 5, Xavier, who had an interesting week last week. Xavier got a big win over Villanova, but then lost their next game on the road at Seton Hall, which is a bit excusable. And they have just one game coming up this week at home against Creighton on March 5th. Creighton's a strong team this year without question. And in fact, earlier this year, they beat Xavier by 14 as a small home dog. So clearly, Creighton is a serious opponent, but I see that game as a likely bounce back spot for Xavier. They shouldn't be too huge of a favorite, and I think that Xavier should be more likely than not to cover that one. And then, of course, we have to talk about second-ranked Michigan State, who's exploding right now and shooting up the rankings. And Michigan State has now covered their last 9 games in a row, an amazing ATS run that has not been fluky at all. Most of those covers came by comfortable margins, and their last 2 were by double digits. Their 2 upcoming games are at Rutgers on the 2nd and at home against Ohio State on the 5th. But with the postseason looming and Michigan State probably getting increasing line respect, they might not be a good bet as a big favorite in those games, despite how awesome they've been ATS recently. And I think their recent ATS awesomeness probably points to ATS value in the postseason more than it does to their final 2 regular season games. Then looking at 6 through 10, the upcoming game that jumps out to me is, of course, number 8 North Carolina in a revenge spot against number 17 Duke on March 5th. UNC was just 1-2 against spread last week, and they're looking good, but basically appropriately valued overall by the market right now. But of course, they lost at home to Duke earlier in the year, and this game sets up for a big revenge win and cover by UNC. And when UNC steps it up, they can get big wins against top teams. We saw that recently against Miami, and Duke, as we know, is good but beatable this year. So we'll see what the spread is for that game when it comes out. But as of right now, I'm going to be on the lookout for value with UNC. And then moving on to 11 through 15, number 12 Indiana and number 14 Maryland meet up on the 6th. And I'm thinking Indiana is probably going to have the edge on the spread in that one. Indiana's been playing well. They've gotten some good wins and covers recently. And in general, they've been a good bet at home. They're 11-5 ATS at home on the year. And then Maryland's kind of the opposite of all of that. They've been sluggish ATS recently. They're looking a bit overvalued in general. They're 0-3-1 ATS in their last 4 and 3-5-1 ATS on the road this year. And that game just looks like it sets up for a pretty comfortable win by Indiana, and the spread shouldn't be too big. So Indiana should be just a modest favorite in that one, and I'm going to be looking to play on Indiana there. And then number 15, Purdue's another Big Ten team that's been good in general, but overvalued and a bad bet recently. They're 2-7-1 against the spread in their last 10, and both of those wins were very close. And I've been looking to fade Purdue game in and game out recently. And they have 2 games coming up, but at Nebraska on the 1st and at home against Wisconsin on the 6th. They'll probably be overvalued in both, but the Wisconsin game is the one I'm really looking at for line value fading Purdue. Wisconsin's a young team, has really come on strong in conference play. They're 9-2 against the spread in their last 11, including some impressive outright wins as a road underdog against other quality but overvalued Big Ten teams, Iowa and Maryland. And I think we should see something similar from them in the Purdue game. Then looking at 16 through 20, I've already mentioned possible upcoming fade value with number 17 Duke and number 18 Arizona for the Pac-12 is an interesting case. Arizona lost both of their road games last week, both straight up and against the spread, but they're clearly still a team that's poised for big wins and margin covers at any time. They have upcoming home games this week against Cal and Stanford, and Cal is surging, and there's no way I'm going to be looking ahead in advance to think about playing against Cal in any spot right now. But Stanford's a different story. Stanford has been improving recently, and they've covered 4 of their last 5, but they're still a team that can easily get blown out on the road by top teams, and that might be something that we'll see against Arizona on the 5th. Stanford's 2-6 against the spread on the road this year, and they haven't come close to covering any of their recent road games except for the one at Washington State, which I think is probably pretty meaningless because of how awful Washington State is. So I'm definitely going to have my eye out for line value with Arizona at home against Stanford on the 5th. And then with 21 through 25, first number 22, Kentucky had been heating up, but they've since lost 3 of 4 against the spread. I still, though, think that they should have some line value in their remaining regular season games. I like them to bounce back as a small road favorite at Florida on the 1st, and then a bit more so on the 5th. They're at home against LSU, and LSU has been pretty overvalued recently. They've lost their last 3 road games by big margins, and I think Kentucky should be a good bet in that one. Hopefully the spread won't be too huge. And then number 23, Texas had been killing it against against the spread until their last game where they got blown out by Kansas. But Texas has just one game this week on the road at Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State has been very vulnerable in general. They've lost 6 of their last 8 against the spread, and that game, I'm guessing, will be a good spot to play on Texas, looking to bounce back from the Kansas loss. And that's a look at the top 25 in college basketball from an ATS perspective as of March 1st.